This is section 2.6, problems 2 and 3. So the first thing we need to do is find the domain of the function. So in a previous section, chapter 1, we talked about the domain. Here, notice we have a fraction. Since we have a fraction, we know that there's going to be some numbers that are excluded from the domain. To find those numbers, we set the denominator equal to 0. And in this case, x would be equal to 2. 2 cannot be in the domain. Okay, so it's going to be all real numbers except for x equals 2. So that's going to be our letter, this third one here. For letter B, it says discuss the behavior of f near any excluded x values. So our excluded value is 2. Okay, so to help us with this, you want to take that function and graph it. I'm going to go ahead and use decimals. So the function is 2 divided by x minus 2. Okay, so notice our graph here. And our excluded value, I'm going to circle it here. Oh, it doesn't let me circle it. But notice here, 2 is our excluded value. So let me just let me go ahead and get this graph. So that I can draw on it. So our excluded value here is x equals 2. So as we come from the left side, so in the problem, when you see this negative on the 2, that means that the function is approaching this value from the left side. When you see the positive sign, that means that the problem is approaching from the right side. Okay, so if we look at the left side, that means what is happening to the graph as it gets closer and closer to this excluded value. Okay, so we can see here that as we get closer to 2 from the left, the graph is going down to negative infinity. If we go from the right, then we can see that the graph would be going to positive infinity. So if we look at our answer choices, it says, the first one says, as f of x goes to infinity, f of x will go to infinity as x approaches 2 from the left side. So let's look at the left side. So let's look at as x goes to negative infinity, as x approaches 2 from the left, does it go to negative infinity? And we said yes. And this one is as x goes to negative, as x approaches 2 from the left side, does it go to positive infinity? So no. And this one was a no. And as x goes to 2 from the left side, it goes to negative infinity? Yes. And as x goes to the 2 from the left side, does it go to 0? No. Okay, so again, as x is going to 2 from the right side, notice that the graph is going to negative infinity. As it comes in from the right side, then the graph is going to positive infinity. So let's go back to our choices. So now we're looking at the positive. So as x goes to positive, as x approaches 2 from the right side, is it going to negative infinity? No. As x is going to 2 from the right side, is it going to positive infinity? And the answer is yes. So that would be our answer. So number 3, first we want to find the domain. Since we have a fraction, then we're going to set the denominator equal to 0. So So we're going to add 4 on the both sides. And take the square root. So x is equal to plus or minus 2. So the values here is that positive 2 and negative 2 are excluded from the domain. So the domain is going to be all real numbers except for plus or minus 2. So that's going to be this choice here. Now we can plot this or graph this. So we have 6x squared. Let me go to decimals. So we have 6x squared divided by squared minus 4 x squared minus 4. So this is what our graph looks like. Let me go ahead and take a screenshot of this. Okay. So again, to figure this out, let's look at the question first. So as we approach our excluded values, let me highlight them in red here. So the first one is negative 2 and then positive 2. So as we approach, let's look at the negative one. As we approach this value from the left, that's what the negative means here. As we approach this value to the left, what is happening to the graph here? So notice that the graph is going to negative infinity. Okay. As we approach that same value from the right, this is a negative. As we approach it from the right, negative 2 to the right, notice that the graph, so if I'm coming in this way, the graph is still going to negative infinity. Okay, so let me erase that. Now let's look at positive 2. Okay, so as I approach positive 2 from the left side, then what is happening to my graph? Notice that's going to negative infinity. If we come from the right side for 2 to the 2 plus, then the graph is still going to be going to negative infinity. So let's look at our choices here. And let's start with the negative and negative 2 going from the left side. As we approach negative 2 from the left side, did it go to positive infinity? No. So that's not going to be a choice. If we approach negative 2 from the left side, does it go to negative infinity? Yes. If we approach 2 from the right side, it also went to negative infinity, so that's true. And then as we approach negative 2 from the right side, did it go to negative infinity? Yes. And then as we approach 2 from the left side, did it also go to negative infinity? Yes. They all went to negative infinity. Let's check the rest just to make sure. So notice for the third one, it's saying that it goes to positive infinity, so that's not a choice. And this is positive infinity, not a choice, and not a choice. So my answer again is the second choice.